This is section 513. We're going to be graphing a polynomial. So you'll be able to graph a polynomial using the end behavior, the y-intercept, and the zeros of multiplicity. As a recap, this is how we determine the end behavior of a function. We look at two elements. We look at the degree of the polynomial, if it's going to be even or odd, and then we look at the leading coefficient to determine if it's positive or negative, and then you use the chart to figure out if they're both going up, both going down, or if one's going up and one going down, where it's starting from. The second, we use the multiplicity. Now, we defined the multiplicity as the number of times that the zero occurs. And so as a quick example there, I determined that the zeros were 2, -5, -1, and +1. But because this says x minus 2 squared, it means I have 2 of those zeros, so my multiplicity is 2. I have 4 of these, I have 1 of these and 1 of these. Now, when we defined multiplicity, we said that if the multiplicity is even, it's going to bounce at that 0. If the multiplicity was odd, it's going to cross through. So we're going to take all these elements together and we're going to sketch a polynomial. So here is our polynomial. So these are the three elements we need to find: the zeros, its multiplicity, usually the y-intercept helps, and then the end behavior. So the zeros. My first is 2x minus 1. If I set that equal to 0, I get 1/2. I only have one of them, so that's going to be multiplicity 1. If I set this x plus 1 equal to 0 and solve, you get -1. Because I have 2 of them, it's going to be multiplicity 2. This is odd, so it's going to cross through. That 2 is even, so it's going to bounce back at that 0. Then to find your y-intercept, you plug in 0 for x. So -3 times 2 times 0, which is 0 minus 1, and then 0 plus 1 squared. So -3 times -1 times 1, so that's +3. And if we want to write it as a point, that's 0, 3. And then the end behavior, if I find the leading term, you get -3 times 2x times x squared. So that's going to be minus 6x to the third. This is negative, this is odd. So using that chart, my end behavior is going to look like that. So now we're going to take these three elements, put them together, and sketch our polynomial. So putting it all together on the graph, we can plot our zeros. We have -1, and then +1/2, because that's +1. We have our y-intercept at 0, 3. And then I like to sketch my end behavior. It starts up there and it ends down here. So we start at one direction and we go to the other. So I'm going to start at my end behavior and it's going to go to this -1. Now because the multiplicity was even, it's going to bounce back. So it's going to bounce at the 0. It's going to obviously cross that point, and then it's going to go back to this 1/2. Because the multiplicity was odd, it's going to cross through, and so now we have our graph. If you notice, it matches the end behavior, it matches the zeros, it bounces where it needs to bounce, it crosses the y-intercept, and it crosses where it needs to cross. Let's look at another example. So stating the zeros, if I set x plus 3 equal to 0, you get -3. I have 2 of them, so multiplicity 2. If I set x plus 1 equal to 0, you get -1. Because I have 2 of them, multiplicity 2. My y-intercept, you plug in 0 for x. Three squared is 9, 1 squared is 1, so you're going to get 18. And then your end behavior, find the leading term, so I get 2x squared times x squared. That's 2x to the 4th. So because it's positive, and even, they're going to both go up like that. So now sketching it. I have a 0 at -3. I have a 0 at -1. My end behavior starts up, it ends up, and instead of counting it, I'm just going to say that that's about 18. So starting from the end behavior, it's going to go down at -3 because my multiplicity is even. It's going to bounce. So it's going to bounce at the 0. Now it wants to go to the next one. And so again, the multiplicity is even, so it's going to bounce. And so it's going to bounce at that 0. And it's going to cross. So the match is the end behavior. It bounces at both of those zeros. It touches both of those zeros. I got my correct y-intercept. That looks good. I know I drew that a little wavy. You can draw that a little straighter. So what did we learn today? We learned how to sketch a polynomial. The 3 elements that we needed were the zeros and the multiplicity. We needed the y-intercept, and we needed the end behavior. Now the constant of the function, so just some quick review, is always the number without any x or variable associated with it. And then the leading coefficient is going to be if you look at the leading term, it's always going to be the number that's in front of the leading term. This does conclude our lesson. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments.